Plymouth Harbor Foundation is sponsoring this luncheon and the Inside Luncheon series. As you know, my name is Phil Starr and I'm a foundation ambassador, which means I served on the foundation and my term expired, so they got something for me to do now. Kalina works behind the scenes and does videos of these talks, and then she edits them and puts them on the Plymouth Harbor website. Starting last year, we have been doing it this way. Before that, we were making DVDs, and not all residents had DVD players, so it didn't work as well. This way, it's really easy to access the website and listen to any speeches that you want to hear. Our speaker today moved in with her husband, or according to Gordon's list, 2016, although I just met her this morning. She knows my wife, because they go to exercise program together. But we're very pleased to have Dr. Eriksen here to give insight into her background. Dr. Eriksen.
Yeah.
Well, first, I would like to say thank you to all of you because of the wonderful work you do for us who live here. You are so good, you're thoughtful, you take care, and then you meet us with big smiles, and that has made it so easy to move into Plymouth. Thank you for that. Well, I'm a Dane. I was born and raised in Copenhagen, Denmark. I'm an architect. My first degree is from the Royal Academy in Denmark, the Royal Academy of Fine Arts, it's called. After that, I followed my husband to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, where I got my...
I don't think your microphone is
Oh, God, I'll start all over again. Could you hear what I said up to now?
Much better. There we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Sorry. Well, it didn't matter. It was just that I'm a Dane, so that's okay. So I followed my husband to the University of Philadelphia, in University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, where I got my master's degree in architecture and my PhD in environmental psychology. I became a professor there, and I also had my own firms in Philadelphia and in Denmark, and I did an awful lot of commuting between Philadelphia and Copenhagen, because I had projects going on both places at the same time, and boy, it was really back and forth. The reason for my PhD degree was my concern about architects not paying enough attention to the built environment, which is the influence that the physical environment has on human behavior. That means I think that we should design from inside out and not start out with a facade and then stick everybody into that. When I spoke of that, I would get snide remarks from my male architects. You know, very few women were architects at that time, and not really that many even today. I was one of 3 women in the class of 43 architects in the master's degree program at Penn. I also developed what I call a participatory design process. That means that those who would use the building, whether children or adults, would participate in the design process. I also decided to focus on architecture for children, which was really neglected by most architects. And I was so shocked to see what public schools looked like and grounds, and I thought they looked like prisons, and said, I gotta do something about that. So I have designed children's schools, playscapes, which is what I call a playground, museums, hospitals, including the furniture, the lighting, the colors, the wardrobes, the lockers, all with the children's participation, and also the teachers, the nurses, and the doctors. I have also designed headquarter buildings, a couple of factories, apartment buildings, and the very first school in the first charter school in the United States, the West Philadelphia Community Free School in 1970. This is a long time ago. I wanted to show you some of the pictures that will illustrate some of what I just talked about. Now I hope I'm doing it right. Yeah. I talked about participation and learning, and children had to learn to really draw, and they got to try to really draw real architect's drawings and measure so they understood what it was about. Then they made lots of drawings, and I want you to know that I never saw a school design that looked like the schools we generally see. And they made models, and they talked about them, and well, this is just one of my little ones. And different models, and then they presented their drawings. And it was really very important for architects to listen to what the children say they have designed. Because in their presentation of what they have done, you really learn a lot. Then I say, why should schools be ugly? So here are just a couple of bathrooms from one of my schools. And another illustration, this is, why should a staircase be ugly? And so from the facade, you can see it, I had an artist, oh, I can't make that work, I'm sorry. I had an artist make the bird that is put on the wall, and then this, I designed the lighting in that hallway, or that staircase. Then I designed furniture because I thought it was really terrible furniture, most of what the kids said. And that why shouldn't they have regular office chairs and different kinds of tables that can be put together in very different ways. Now this is a school from Denmark. And I can't figure out how to use this, but I'll try again. No, so I'll have to go up to point at it.
That doesn't work on the.
Oh, that's right, it does work, sorry, so I'll point. There are 4 buildings. This building, this, and this, and this. And outside is the landscape, which there's a creek running, because they have signs in this building into a pond, and there's an amphitheater, and there's all that other stuff that you need to have. Then here's my design of the school, and it's made of wood and corrugated aluminum, which has been painted. And that's the school. Oh. And their colors.
Where is that again?
In Denmark. And here, it's just a drawing to show you what it is. And this one is the children's, the small, from 1st to 6th grade here. And here from 7th to 10th grade. And then in here is this, the signs that went out there, and teachers, and this is a gym, and different others. Now, this is for the children from 1st to 6th grade in the round building. My drawing of what it should be like, and they would have their copies outside their classrooms, and then they would have that open big space that they could use in different ways. And that just shows you the classrooms, different kinds of arrangements, but those are the copies outside. And that's what the copies look like that I decided to, of course. A really nice design. And this is inside of this children's, the small children's. And that could be used for all kinds of things. That might have been here, it's a lecture on, I think it was about stars or something like that, I can't remember. And this is the dining room. And then this is a display.
Case.
What?
Case. Display case.
Display case, that's what we call it. And sometimes it would be displays, and sometimes it was important news. And they were around, and they were by the entrance to the school, and they were around in the school. Now this is the older children. Those are different colors. The colors that I represent, the first one was most of what you will see from the young ones. These are the older ones. This is the reception desk. When you come into the school, the young ones have the same thing. And a classroom with different kinds of furniture is the same. And then their big space and their locker spaces. And another kind of display case. And then you can see sometimes if there was a dinner for parents and what have you, you could also use the main space for that. And this is a storage locker, and it was designed like this so you could hang, each one could hang something and not just stick it in on a shelf. And then again, this is the entrance to the gym, and why shouldn't it look nice? And then here, this is very important, always art. There must be art in schools. And so walls will be hung with art and different kinds of lighting. So something beautiful to look at, something nice. Now here's a playscape, and just from Grand Rapids, Michigan, where they asked me to come and do that, and I guess the superintendent had heard of me, and so this is what I did, and then football play and so on is over there, and I designed this stuff. This is a headquarters building in North Carolina, and the main thing is really light. And I had this fountain, so they had something nice to listen to, and they could open the windows. Then this is the Children's Museum. This is the Art Museum in Copenhagen, and this is in a new building, and I did the Children's Museum, which is this part of the building. And they come in here, and I designed kind of colorful little stools and stuff they could sit on, and then they would go upstairs to have a presentation of painting. So I made a nice sofa. I thought, why not sit nice when you have to listen to the curators talking about the very fancy. But then they told me that they were having problems. They didn't know what to do because these were classes from schools, school classes that would come in. And then they would have to wait. And what can we do with them when they're waiting? And I suggested, why don't we have a movie for them? Yes. So I designed the movie theater. And then that's here. And when you're up on the second floor, you can look down and see that. And that was they liked that. Now here comes one of my wonderful projects. I am missing so many boxes with drawings and pictures and so on, and they are in some storage somewhere, I know, but I just couldn't get to it. But this is, and Beth Watson told me I had to tell you about this one. I defended my PhD, and shortly thereafter I was made professor at Penn. And wow, I got my own office and my own secretary, and I was really feeling great about this. And so this was over, and then one day, I don't know, a month or two later, I get in and she says, oh, Dr. Eriksen, the president wants to see you right away. Can you get there? Do you think you can get there? And then, well, president of the University of Pennsylvania, I guess I could get there. And I thought, walking over the campus to one of the other older buildings, I said, oh my God, I'm going to get fired right away. What did I do? What did I do? Well, I got there, and how do you do, Dr. Eriksen? It's so nice that you could come. Do come in, and Dr. Eriksen, I want you to meet the chairman of the board of trustees. And he says, how do you do? Well, come on in. Would you like some coffee? And so I said, well, I guess I'm not going to get fired. Well, we're calling because we're having a real problem here. This is 1968. Philadelphia, and this famous university, one of the Ivy Leagues, was now in a black community in West Philadelphia. And they had a horrible school. I mean, it was one of those 5,000 students. And they said that they had a real problem because Noelle Williams, who was the head of the local black community, she came in with her group and sat in front of the president's door and demanded to talk to him. And Harnwell, who was the president of Penn at that time, was very smart. He listened to them and he invited them in and asked them what it was. And they said, look, our children cannot go into college because the education is so bad and you cannot be here and not do something about it. So we decided, if you don't do something about it, you may find Dietrich Hall burned down. Now, Dietrich Hall at Penn was the Wharton School of Business. Now, had it been education or architecture, I'm not sure, but that one, they weren't going to have that. And so they said, we had a discussion here, and several of us said, we have this young radical architect from Denmark. Why don't we give her a chance to do some of the stuff she talks about? Okay, So I said, well, I have to talk to the community first. I had to meet with them so I can, find out. And I said to them, I don't know anything about you guys, but I'm a Dane, one of those Vikings, I said, from over there. Yeah, they knew that. And so I said, but you will have to work with me and help me in order to do something. Oh yeah, well they did. And I had then to go in and meet with many of these people in the community, and it was really sad to see what they couldn't do. So I said, well, it has to be a school under the public school system, because otherwise we don't need a private school. We're going to have to change the school system. Well, and I said we need small schools. And we need schools that are family-based, because that you are in 3rd grade doesn't mean that you read at 3rd grade level or at 8th grade. I mean, I had some of those very young, older students in 10th grade, big guys that couldn't read. But I said they have to have trust in you for them to tell you that they need help. And so they said, okay. Well, I told the superintendent of schools that I wanted to hire the teachers, and he said, no way, you can't do that, it's union. And I said, well, then we won't do a school. I said, I'm going to make the curriculum. But I could only do that, of course, because the University of Pennsylvania was 100% behind me, or I couldn't. So that's how we managed. And I said, we need scattered schools. We need smaller schools that are family-based. And then I said, look, Philadelphia, Penn is in this city with all the sources. I mean, there are banks and there are industries and there's electrical things. There's all kinds, and teachers can really reach that level of expertise in the high school, even though they're very good. So we want to use the community to come into the school and we wanted to get the children out into the community. So we would have kids going and working in banks, or we would have electricians and engineers coming in and teaching and so on. And it worked very well. So, but these are the only pictures I have. But basically, it was a concept of partnership in alternative choice, individualized, non-graded learning, and small schools on scattered sites. And it was really very successful, and it got the name of charter schools. I didn't have that name way back then. This is something that has come. And the first school that was copied after this was in Boston. This is just to show you, those were some buildings that I picked for schools around that we could do. And this is what you could even do in a 3-story building in a city. And different kinds of arrangements and showing what we could do, and it would work. And that's it. I was told I had to go very fast, so I'm sorry. And please ask questions if you have questions.
So the community school in Philadelphia, is it still in existence now, or do you have any idea what
I
happened?
think it is, but I'm not sure. I mean, this is, the first school was 70, and 10 years ago it was. I really don't know whether it still is.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if there's any alumni that have gone on to do amazing things.
Well, I know that because I was able to play some of them again. I mean, I found a student, he was so talented, so bright. I called Yale and I said, you gotta take him in. I mean, I could do that again because of Penn. Yeah. And then I was made a director of the first school, and I was released from my teaching at the university. And so I was there, and every day, working with them and working with the teachers and so on. And they called me the Great Dane. And I thought that was a real compliment.
So which project was your most favorite? Was it that, or was there something back in
No,
Denmark?
I can't say that because everyone has been a different project, and everyone has been a very exciting challenge, yes.
You told me a story about a button a couple of years ago, where you were giving a speech or a lecture or something about if
Oh, well, that was when I was doing after my research project on elder care, you know, and Denmark did not have a continued care community concept. And so, yeah, it was actually a speech to Parliament in Denmark, and I talked about the fact that Denmark goes all for technical things, and so everybody has a little apartment with a little balcony, you know, and toilets go up and down, and sinks go up and down, and everything is like that, and then they're all alone, and I said, look, they need inspiration and fellowship. And I remember saying there was a time when you can't button your button. If you can't button your button on your blouse, you can't get up. Here, I could go next door and ask my neighbor to help me. Well, that's a different story.
Did you always know you wanted to be an architect?
I'm sorry?
Did you always know you wanted to be an architect?
No, I wanted to be a nuclear physicist. When I was 12 years old, I studied under Niels Bohr. I was one of the kids that were able to get into a group like that.
Wow.
But then I decided later that I thought architecture was more interesting.
You talked about designing from the inside out and getting people involved. Did you use the word, or was the word charrette?
No, no, that's a very special, well, that's the way architects like to think of doing it. So you get a small group together and then you have them all talk and do blah, blah, blah. No, I mean, I would be there, the hospitals did too. I would have a white robe on, it said Dr. Eriksen, which is true, and I would be there at all the shifts of the 24 hours, and I would follow the children and the parents, which was mostly mothers, and talk to them about what do they wish. I would have the children draw about what they thought it should be like and what they wish they had. And for example, one of the things that often came through was they wish they could have it. The mothers would say they wish that it could be just like at home, and they wish they had a nice, pleasant kitchen where they could make things with their kids and so on. And of course, the children wanted colors, and so each age group had different colors in the hospital and different fabrics, and the doctors, I moved them out of their chummy conference room in the hospital and put them into the departments where they really belonged. And first they were really, you know, but they agreed that it was not a bad idea, so that kind of worked. And well, I think the hospital was maybe very special because, I mean, we are more familiar with the others. I certainly was not familiar with the hospital routine and what it was. And I also did the children's hospital section at the Royal Hospital in Copenhagen for cancer, the cancer section. I would say that was difficult. It was really, really difficult for me to not have those images with me all the time. But it was involving teachers and you know, if it's a corporate building, all the people who work there, it would be all of you. I mean, if I was designing here with you, I would have every one of you involved in my design process, and you would be drawing and making models, and I just stopped.
Do you want to talk about the time that you actually toured Plymouth Harbour?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to talk about the time that you actually toured Plymouth Harbour when you were doing your research?
Oh, sure. Well, the president of Carlsberg Breweries in Denmark had heard my presentation about the American concept of continued care community. Here we are. And asked me if I would come out, and because he thought that the breweries were in the outskirts of Copenhagen, And they were thinking of moving outside Copenhagen with all the, and wondered whether the brewery place could be made into that. And it really could have, because it was across the street from a beautiful park, and it would have been possible to do that. But it didn't get there. However, he gave me a grant, really a big grant, to research this. So I looked into what there was of this concept in Europe, and there were really very few. There were a couple in Germany and Switzerland and in northern Italy. And then I came to the United States. Well, I mean, then I did it here. And I was all over the United States, looking at what I had found in my research as possibilities. And of course, I was in Philadelphia because we had a house down in Nokomis. Well, we weren't all the time, but I mean, we did. So I mean, I did know a little bit about Philadelphia. No, I mean Sarasota, and so I came here, of course, to Plymouth Harbor, and I went to all the others around here, and then round in America, and then I published a book, and Plymouth Harbor was, after all my research, the best place in the United States. And the second place was in the same concept outside Los Angeles. And it really was. And I never dreaming that I was going to come here. I mean, that was not anywhere, because we were going back to Denmark, and we were going to end up in Denmark, so. So that's how.
How did you end up, what made you decide to come to Plymouth Harbor and choose to stay?
Well, my husband, we came to a point where my husband, I could see that he was beginning to need help. And I realized that we had a big, lovely home. I designed it, and lots of greens and stuff and all that. But I realized that we were very much isolated within a lot of nature. And I said, no, I think maybe. So I took him on a tour, not a very, but 3 or 4 places, Glen Ridge and whatever that called, and Plymouth Harbor. And he decided, yes, he could live here. And then Liz Spa, we were very lucky. Liz Spa was the one that helped us find this. And she said to me, no, when I tell you that there is this apartment, you take it. Because if not, she says, you're not going to get in. So we started out in a little one-room apartment, although we never slept in the same room for years, but that was okay.
We've probably got time for one more question. All right. Oh, Beth.
You mentioned a very odd job site that you had to go and inspect once. Do you vote?
Oh, you mean, yes, the president of Sun Oil, this is a long time ago too, contacted me and said that he'd heard about me, read about me, whatever it all was, and they were interested in, if I would be interested in thinking of how I could redesign the quarters for the staff on the drill platforms. And I said, wow.
The oil rigs.
Yeah, the oil ratings, yeah. And so they started out by sending me to Los Angeles and then another town outside in a speedboat, taking me out to the platform, And I had thought it was going to be kind of dirty and oily and so on. It was pure white. It was gorgeous, it was me, but enormous. And of course, like you saw my hi-hat, I mean, I build buildings too, so I'm often on a construction site. I always have to make sure I have slacks on, because otherwise I could get in trouble. And here I was getting into this rigging, oil rigging, and it's huge. It's many stories high, and I had to climb up, and they were all really worried about it. A woman, how could she climb up? But I did. Anyway, it was that was a very interesting experience, yes.
All right. Well, Phil, I'll hand it over to you.
I have an announcement to make. We have a speaker for November. Dr. Fred Moffat is going to give a talk that he gave to the McNeil Society, which everybody found very interesting. about the history of Plymouth Harbor. And he'll be speaking in the November Inside Luncheon, and then December we'll give everybody a break, and we'll start over in January. Any suggestions that you have about speakers you'd like to hear from, please contact Beth Watson. The resident population here is changing all the time, so we have new people coming in all the time who have wonderful stories to tell. So let her know. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Dr. Eriksen.
Thank you.